Okay, we're about to start learning the dinim of building the sukkah. So, sukkah has to be under the sky. It's not allowed to be in a building. If a sukkah is in a building, it's not kosher. If a sukkah is underneath a tree, it's also not kosher. Now, what happens if you have branches very high up? And, it's like 30 feet up, and then your sukkah is 10 feet high, or whatever. So, it's not so simple in halacha, but what you could do is, you have to put so much schach on the sukkah that if you take away equal to the branch of the tree, you take away an equal amount of schach, and it would still be more shade than sun, so then b'diavad it's good. But you can't just make a sukkah under a tree, especially if the branches are low, then you cannot make, you have to cut off the branches, you cannot make a sukkah underneath the tree. Or if even a part of a sukkah underneath the tree, that part of the sukkah is not kosher.
And if there's an overhang, like a fence, like a chain fence overhang.
It's also not good.
I'm saying, can you do this, that extra?
Yeah, but that's very b'diavad. Very b'diavad. But you have to actually try to not put it under a chain link fence. Now, that's number one. Number two, you're not allowed to make a sukkah on stolen land. Meaning, you're not allowed to make l'chatchila, even though the rule is land cannot be stolen. So how do you have stolen land? So somebody puts up a sukkah on somebody else's yard or somebody else's front yard, whatever, without his friend's permission. If you did, it's kosher, but you can't make a leisha basukkah in the sukkah. In other words, you need permission from the person. If you want to put up a sukkah in somebody's backyard without permission, you need to get permission, because otherwise it's a kosher sukkah, but you can't be able to make a bracha.
Do we need permission from the Indians that we stole the land from, or that's okay?
Yeah, you still need to go back to the Indians and the French and the cowboys, and yes. Now, what happens if you put a sukkah in a public place? It's not so simple, by the way. According to halacha, you need to get permission from the city. Now, it's interesting. What happens if you have a Sukkamobile, okay? And you park a Sukkamobile by a meter, and you put the money in the meter, so that means you rented the place. So then the city is giving you permission because it's your rental space. But if you park a Sukkamobile in a place where you're not allowed to park, like in a red line, or it's illegal to park, it's a big issue in halacha, by the way. They need to make sure that then they won't be able to necessarily make a bracha on the sukkah.
The meter runs out?
Huh?
The meter runs out?
Then you have to put more money in the meter.
If they take a Sukkamobile to like a park, a theme park.
So again, if you go to a theme park and you pay a parking space, so then again, you're paying a parking space. You go to Disneyland, people used to put up sukkahs in the parking lot in Disneyland, yeah? So over there, you're paying for a space, so it's your space, you're renting the space. So
that park next to a fire hydrant in New York?
What?
That park next to a fire hydrant in New York?
It's a kosher to sukkah, but the question is if you can make a bracha or not. Because basically it's stolen, the sukkah came about still through, that's why you don't make a bracha on it, because it still came about through stealing without permission to do it. It's another interesting shower with a Sukkamobile. Is a Sukkamobile kosher as a sukkah even when it's moving or only when it stops? Sukkamobile, if you're driving, can you sit in the back and eat in the Sukkamobile? Or it's supposed to be dafka when it stops. So in halacha there's a machlekes, but the minig is that you mekel that even when it's moving, it's still kosher. But when it's not moving, for sure, the sukkah is kosher.
If it says the Shavut Sukkot,
What?
you cannot sit down when you drive.
Oh, it's a truck there.
Well, first of all, Teishuv Sukkot doesn't mean you can't stand. Teishuv means you should live in the sukkah. Yeah, but Teishuv Sukkot doesn't mean if you stand in the sukkah you can't make a bracha. You could make a bracha.
Now if you do it on the public land, can't you rely on the fact that if they give you a ticket or take you to court, and can you rely on the court order, the Vaad, that they give you 7 days to remove it?
No. That's only if you have a sukkah in your house and the government starts up with you and they give you 10 days to take down the sukkah, so then they're giving you the permission for the 10 days. But if you have on public property, you can't just go put up a sukkah somewhere. And if you, you could, the sukkah is kosher, but you can't make a bracha.
And so you're homeless and the city doesn't do anything.
But they're still not there legally, by the way. Maybe in California they are. But all the places where there's Republican governors, so then it's Republican mayors. So it doesn't work so simply that they just can live there with permission.
You rely on the restaurants that all the sukkahs that they have were permitted
So most of them are in the parking lots. That's theirs.
in the front. They allow them to put it in
But I'm saying it's in the most. You mean in the street? In the street, ideally, they should get permission from the city. Maybe they do. Maybe they get permission from the city. But if they put it in the parking lot, then there's not an issue. It's their parking lot. They can do whatever they want. Okay, now, what is the length and width of a sukkah? So the maximum height of a sukkah, maximum height is 20 amas. 20 amas in practical language is 30 feet. So what does it mean the sukkah cannot be higher than 30 feet? It means from the floor of the sukkah to the schach cannot be more than 30 feet. But if you put, let's say you live in an apartment building, 10-story apartment building, and you're putting up a sukkah on the roof, yeah, even though it's from the street, it's much more than 20 amas. But 20 amas means from the floor of the sukkah that you're building to the schach. That has to be less than 20 amas. 20 amas, which is 30 feet. What is the minimum height of a sukkah? 10 tefachim, which is in practical language about 2 feet, approximately 10 tefachim is 30 feet. 10 tefachim, sorry, 36 inches. So I'm taking feet. 10 tefachim, according to Avraham Chaim, knows approximately 36 inches. So you need to make sure that the sukkah should be more than 36 inches high. What's the minimum length and width of a sukkah? 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim. Which again, approximately 25 inches by 25 inches. Why is that the minimal size of a sukkah? So the Gemara says, because an average person, his body, the majority of his body, and the table takes up 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim. So it's enough of a place to put in a person with a table that he's able to eat in the sukkah. So the minimal size is 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim. The minimum height of a sukkah is 10 tefachim, which is 36 inches, approximately, and the maximum height of a sukkah from the floor of the sukkah to the schach is 30 feet. Okay, that's the minimum. Okay, next. It could be longer, but I'm saying what happens if a sukkah, instead of being, let's say, 24 inches, let's say 24 inches by 24 inches, it's 20 inches by 30 inches, or whatever. It's very wide, but it's not 7 tefachim wide. So doesn't go by the square footage. It has to be minimum 7 tefachim by 7 tefachim. If you have 5 tefachim by 50 tefachim, it's still no good. It has to be, you have an interesting shaila by mezuzah also. A room that's obligated to put up a mezuzah has to be, it's daled amas by daled amas, which in practical language is 6 feet by 6 feet, which is squared 36 square feet. Now what happens if you have a room that's 18 feet by 2 feet? It's also 36 square feet, but isn't mechuyev in a mezuzah or not? Or you have a room that's 9 feet by 4 feet. Or does the dafka have to be 6 feet by 6 feet? There's machlekes rishenim, officially it's machlekes between the Rambam and the Rosh, but according to the Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Shabbos, The Alter Rebbe says a room must have dalet tvachim by dalet tvachim. And if it has more than dalet tvachim by dalet tvachim, in other words, it's not dalet by dalet, it's 10 by 2, whatever, or 3. Huh? 4 amas by 4 amas. I said I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth. A room has to have dalet amas by dalet amas, 6 feet by 6 feet. So according to the Rebbe, if it's 9 by 4, it wouldn't be mechuyev in a mezuzah.
So if it's a storage room that's not 6 feet, then
If it's not 6 feet by 6 feet, then you don't need a mezuzah. It's interesting, we were saying a while ago when we were learning the name of mezuzah, that when the Rebbe came out with the mezuzah campaigns, so people started getting very strict in mezuzah. Okay, because the Rebbe's campaign. So then they were putting on rooms that are even less than 6 feet by 6 feet, providing it's off a big room. In other words, let's say you have a bedroom, and off the bedroom you have a closet that's not 6 feet by 6 feet, is 4 feet by 4 feet. Okay? Because there are opinions in halacha, there's Rabbi Kivegam and Amshik, opinions in halacha that say that if it's off a big room, so the big room needs the mezuzah from the closet. Not that the closet room doesn't need, but the big room needs from the closet. Right? So guys were putting on mezuzahs then. After Gimel Tammuz, when people went into the Rebbe's house, they saw that in the Rebbe's closet that were not dalet al dalet, even they were off a big room, did not have mezuzahs. So they went back to the old way of no mezuzahs unless the room's dalet al dalet. According to the Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Eruvin, it has to be dalet al dalet, not 9 by 4.
there's no need to machmir if it's small size.
I mean, you definitely can't make a bracha. I mean, never you were able to make a bracha. Even those opinions say a big room, a little room off a big room needs a mezuzah, it's without a bracha. Okay, next. Okay, now, look at how many walls does a sukkah need? So chatchila it should have 4 walls. B'diavad, if it has 3 walls, it's also kosher. According to halacha b'diavad, if it's 2.5 walls, it's kosher. Which means like this. Ideally, a sukkah should have 4 walls, proper walls. And we'll discuss, not today, but tomorrow, we'll discuss what is the definition of a proper wall. But a sukkah needs, al-chatchila, 4 walls by 4 walls. B'diavad, if you have, like the letter ches, it's 3 walls, is also kosher. What happens if you have 2 walls, perpendicular walls, and then you have a 3rd wall that's half of it? Okay? So sometimes that would also be kosher, meaning as follows. What happens if you have a sukkah 7 tvachim by 7 tvachim? Okay? And the 3rd wall, you have a wall that's a little bit more than 4 tvachim. But it's within 3 tvachim of the other wall, of the perpendicular wall. So then b'diavad it's also kosher. Why? Because you must have minimum 3 walls. But there's a din that's called something which is within 3 tvachim of something is called lavud, which is halacha mishmesina, which means it's connected. So if you have a wall that's 4 tvachim plus, and you put it within 3 tvachim of the other wall, so then it's halachically connected to the other wall. So you have a wall that's 7 tvachim, so you have 3 walls that are 7. 7 tvachim each. So that's why it says in Sfarim that the word sukkah, samach, chav, hey, is the 3 types of walls that you can make. Samach is 4 walls, chav is 3 walls, and a hey is 2.5 walls. So it says in Sfarim, the remez of this is just in the name of sukkah, samach, chav, hey, that you have the 3 different types of walls. Okay, to be continued.